everyone, I'm Lori with Behavior Education at Spirit Keeper Animal Sanctuary. Welcome to Super Dwarf Sunday for November 6th, 2022. This week, you're going to get to see our Super Dwarf reticulated python, TC, from Reach Out Reptiles, as he encounters some of the other snakes that live here in our home. Hi, TC, what are you doing? What are you doing up here? I didn't realize you made your way this far. Here's TC right here. I guess he decided that he's going to introduce this video with me. I let him out of his enclosure earlier when he was at his door asking out, and I didn't realize he'd made it over here to this activity stand. Anyway, TC actually meets one of the other snakes you're going to see on this very activity stand and on the enclosure behind it. The reason I chose these particular video segments to show you these particular encounters is because I feel each of these encounters shows some very different body language on the part of all the snakes, on TC's part and on the part of the other snakes shown in the video. So I'm just going to let you watch them. I think I will interject a little bit with some narration. I just find it interesting that in some of these encounters, TC seems neutral. In one of the encounters, he seems worried, and in one of the encounters, he seems actually kind of passive. So let me know what you think.
This was actually the first time that I witnessed TC directly encountering another snake like this, where they were both stationed in the same spot, and it made me extremely nervous. This is actually a year ago, and this is my Morelia bredli, Ronon. He has since passed away of cancer following treatment, which obviously was not successful, and I miss Ronon a great deal. This was the first time I found him and TC in the same spot. Now, TC often went to this bucket and positioned himself as you see here. I had never seen Ronon there at the same time as TC, and Ronon had lots of other favorite spots that he liked to roam to and then sit in ambush position during the night. This made me super nervous. As I said, this was a year ago. It was the first time that I had witnessed snakes in this type of encounter where they were doing more than just passing each other as they were exploring or acknowledging each other and then going their own way. They actually both were staying right here in this spot, and I wasn't comfortable with it. So I ended up moving Ronon to one of his other favorite spots for the night. But this wasn't the only time they did this. This is one of those favorite spots in the house where all the snakes seem to like to go, and it's the kitchen sink. We use it to clean dog stuff, our own dishes. Sometimes we use it to thaw rodents. So it's an active area in our kitchen. And on this particular night, and this was in earlier 2022, our 5-year-old Morelia bredli, Boreth, and our 5-year-old Morelia bredli, Sunspear, a male and a female, were there in ambush position along with TC. And it made me nervous at first, but they've now done this many times and never bothered each other. I thought this encounter was interesting. This is my 4-year-old Morelia spilota metcalfei, an inland carpet python. He and TC were out at the same time. They had plenty of space where they did not have to be in the same location together. Their enclosures are not near each other. They're in the same room. That's it. But they both ended up in the same spot, which is behind the exercise tree. And they seemed intrigued with this enclosure. There's a juvenile royal python in this enclosure. She's less than a year old, and she's not even out. She was hiding. So I'm not sure why they were so interested in it. I was uncomfortable with this because it seemed that Vagonbrei, the inland carpet python, was really being assertive. Whether this is inquisitiveness or territoriality, I have no idea. I'm just conjecturing. But he seemed to be very assertive and very interested in TC. And then this made me really nervous when they both came nose to nose with each other. However, TC backs off right away. And I picked up Vagonbrei because Vagonbrei seemed to be the assertive one. He seemed to be the one that was constantly going towards TC, despite the fact that TC seemed to be trying to ignore him and trying to move away. So I picked Vagonbrei up several times, at least 4 or 5 times, when he kept going towards TC and TC was attempting to move away, turning his head away, ignoring him, moving his body away. So I guess Vagonbrei finally caught on because this time he stopped himself. When he started to approach TC and I walked up, he stopped himself and he turned and went the other way. All right, this happened just this month. And this is my 5-year-old Morelia bredli female Sunspear on her hammock, which leads from her enclosure over to an exercise area in another part of the house. And she's on it all the time. And TC happened to be on it this night. And I felt like this was a very tense encounter. Watching this body language, TC looks frozen to me and Sunspear looks aroused. This arching the head and neck and kind of bringing the chin in close and this stiff body posture is a sign of arousal, but we don't know if it's good arousal, bad arousal. Is it fear? Is it territoriality? Is it sexual arousal? Is it some type of bad stress? We just don't know. And I was really leery of this because this body language looked tense on both their parts. One is frozen and the other one has a really tense body posture, and she's curling her chin sort of into her neck, and she's really posturing over TC. So I wasn't sure what to think of it, and I felt like I was going to move one of them. So I went over to the other side of the hammock to move one of them, and I got this footage of TC pretty much frozen, although he starts to tongue flick and move his head towards me, which to me was a sign that he was relaxing slightly, or maybe he was looking to me to do something. And I was going to move him or her, but then Sunspear, I guess, decided that he wasn't a threat or got bored with the situation or decided he wasn't interesting. I can only speculate as to what is going on in their heads, but she moved away. And so I did not end up intervening because she went about her business like she always does and moved over to the other exercise space that's above the kitchen. And one of the other reasons I thought this was really interesting is because they have positioned themselves together on the kitchen sink before and never touched and never come close to each other and ignore each other and never bothered each other. This was the first time I'd ever seen them actually physically interact and come into direct contact like this, and obviously acknowledge that the other was there. And they were having some sort of emotional response to the situation, although I have no idea what that might be. TC seemed a little bit worried about it, though.
Everyone, thank you so much for watching and for spending your time with me again this Sunday for another episode of Super Dwarf Sunday. I am sure that TC would also appreciate your time if he had any inclination that you were watching videos about him, but I actually doubt he has any concept of that whatsoever. I am anxious to hear what you thought of these interactions, of these encounters that TC had with other snakes here in our home. I do not deliberately put TC or any of our snakes into a situation where they encounter other snakes. It happens organically. By that, I mean, I let the snakes out to roam, as you know, if you're a regular viewer of the channel, and sometimes they encounter each other, even though there's tons of space and they don't necessarily have to encounter each other. I find that oftentimes they end up running into each other. I don't know if that's deliberate or not, or if it's because there are certain favorite spots that most of the snakes find attractive. And so they all just end up in those spots. Like, absolutely, I think our kitchen sink is one of those spots. And clearly the bucket where we keep the training tools and the tongs, the training targets and such. I have actually moved those because the snakes were congregating there a lot, and it made me very nervous. They were congregating around training equipment and things they associate sometimes with food. I am anxious to hear your thoughts, and I do have footage of other snake encounters. They don't all include TC, but sometimes when my snakes are out roaming, they encounter each other. And it really does seem like sometimes they encounter each other and just go their own ways, encounter each other, sort of interact a little, and then go their own ways. And there are a few times when they encounter each other and seem to choose to be near each other and remain in the same locations. So it's quite interesting. Obviously, I don't do it on purpose. I also monitor that and supervise it. And clearly, I don't allow Ophiophagous snakes to be out with other snakes ever. So we have 3 king snakes, a pine snake, and a bull snake here. They are never out loose with other snakes. And usually, they're just not out loose anyway. I put them in contained exercise spaces. So let me know if you have any questions. You can reach me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, or right here on YouTube. You can also reach me through my website at behavioreducation.org, or find us on Patreon at patreon.com/behavioreducation. Until next time, everybody, please remember to always be kind and love your animals.
A couple of things that I wanted to note that I noticed when I was editing the video and splicing it all together is that when the hammock starts moving, when TC and Sunspear are on that hammock, that's because I am on the other side of the hammock from the side they were on, and I'm on a ladder, and I kept bumping up against it while I was trying to get that footage. And I thought about reaching across and grabbing one of them. So the hammock was moving, which obviously didn't seem to faze them at all. So I want to explain that. And then I also wanted to explain Sunspear's tail. If you notice, it looks a little weird as she's moving off the hammock to go into the other room. It's because a couple of months ago, she fell and fractured her tail and had to have the end of it amputated. And it's still healing from that. She got sutures, and she has shed since then, but not all of the old skin came off during that shed. It usually can take a couple of sheds when they've had sutures and some kind of surgery for all of that to look a lot better. But she's doing great. She's doing fine. It didn't faze her. It didn't faze her from wanting to come out. It didn't faze her from climbing. You would never even know anything happened.